The way a heart attack looks in movies has probably gotten more people killed than almost anything else I can think of. A man grabs his chest, gasps, and collapses. Dramatic, unmistakable. So that's what people sit around waiting for. They feel something is wrong, but it doesn't match the movie, so they tell themselves it's indigestion or a pulled muscle, and they wait. I'm Dr. John Myers, internal medicine, 15 years of practice. The single most common thing I've watched cost people their heart muscle, and sometimes their lives, was the time spent waiting for a heart attack to look like the one on TV. Here's what almost nobody explains. Your survival during a heart attack is mostly decided in the first 10 or 15 minutes, long before you reach a hospital. There are exactly 3 things you can do in those minutes that genuinely change how it ends. 1 buys you time. 1 slows the thing killing your heart. 1 keeps your heart alive while help is on the way. Before you assume the answer is just, call 911. Yes, that's the first move. But there are 2 specific mistakes people make, even while doing it. Plus 2 more techniques most people have never been told. By the end, you'll know exactly what to do, in what order, whether it's happening to you or the person next to you. The day this happens, you won't have time to look it up. You'll do what you already know, or you'll freeze. My job right now is to make sure you already know. Quick note, since this is what I've built my second career around, helping people stay strong and independent well into their 70s and 80s, I've put what I tell my own patients about eating, daily habits, and warning signs never to ignore into one simple plan that's already helped thousands of people live their best life after 60. If you want it, the link's on your screen. Now, to understand why these techniques work and why order matters, you need to see what's actually happening in your chest during a heart attack. Your heart is a muscle, and like any muscle, it needs a steady oxygen supply delivered by its own network of arteries on its surface, the coronary arteries. A heart attack happens when one of those arteries suddenly gets blocked, almost always by a blood clot. A fatty deposit in the artery wall cracks open, and your blood does what it's built to do at any wound. It clots to seal the crack. Except in that narrow artery, the clot seals the pipe shut. The instant it does, the stretch of heart muscle fed by that artery stops getting oxygen, and starved muscle begins to die. Here's the line I want burned into your memory. Time is muscle. The longer that artery stays blocked, the more of your heart dies, and most of that damage is permanent. So everything comes down to one question. How much of your heart can you keep alive until somebody reopens that artery? 3 things decide the answer. How fast the artery gets reopened, how fast the clot keeps growing while you wait, and how hard your starving heart is being forced to work. You have a direct hand in all 3, and that's exactly what the 3 techniques target. Open the artery faster, stop the clot from growing, take the load off the heart. Let me put a face on this. I'll call him Walter, 66, retired. The kind of man who never wanted to make a fuss. One morning around 4 a.m., he woke up certain it was a bad bout of heartburn. A heavy, full feeling in the middle of his chest. An antacid did nothing. His left arm ached a little, he felt clammy and slightly sick, but there was no crushing pain, no clutching his chest like on TV, so he told himself it would pass. He didn't want to wake his wife over a little indigestion. He sat in his recliner to wait it out. By the time she found him gray and sweating, nearly 3 hours had passed before they reached the hospital. Walter lived, but he lost a large piece of heart muscle in those 3 hours. Muscle he's never getting back. He spends his retirement managing heart failure, winded walking to the mailbox, on a fistful of medications. Hold on to Walter because at the end I'll tell you about someone who had nearly the identical morning and walked out with a very different life. But before the 3 techniques, you have to catch this thing in the first place, because you can't act on a heart attack you've talked yourself out of having. Forget the movie. Most heart attacks begin quietly. The most common sign is discomfort in the center of the chest, but people rarely call it pain. They call it pressure, tightness, squeezing, a heaviness like a band cinched around the chest. It can come and go in waves and often spreads to one or both arms, classically the left, but also the jaw, neck, back, or upper stomach. Exactly why so many people insist it's just heartburn. Add a cold sweat, shortness of breath, nausea, lightheadedness, or exhaustion that makes no sense, and you have the real face of a heart attack. I need to say this directly, especially for women and anyone with diabetes. Your heart attack is more likely to be the quiet kind. Women more often get shortness of breath, nausea, jaw or back pain, or profound fatigue without the obvious chest grab. People with diabetes can have nerve damage that dulls warning pain, so a heart attack can be almost silent. So here's the simple rule. If something feels deeply wrong in your chest, upper body, or breathing, and it isn't going away, treat it as your heart until a professional tells you otherwise. You're allowed to be wrong. You're not allowed to wait. One more distinction. A heart attack is a plumbing problem. An artery is blocked, and the person is usually awake, talking, frightened. Cardiac arrest is an electrical problem. The heart's rhythm goes haywire and stops pumping entirely. That person collapses, unresponsive, not breathing normally. A heart attack can tip into cardiac arrest, which is why minutes matter so much. I'll cover what to do if someone collapses, but the 3 techniques below are for someone conscious and showing warning signs. Technique 1. Call 911 immediately. This goes after factor 1, getting that artery open as fast as possible. Here's what most people don't understand. The clock that matters most isn't when you reach the hospital. It's the total time the artery stays blocked. Calling 911 is the fastest way to shrink that total, but not for the reason you'd guess. Your treatment doesn't begin at the ER doors. It begins the moment paramedics reach you. They can put an ECG on your chest right in your living room, confirm a heart attack, and radio ahead so the hospital's cardiac team is already gowned up and waiting. Patients who arrive by ambulance consistently get treated faster than those who walk into the ER on their own. Hospitals aim to reopen a blocked artery within 90 minutes of arrival, and calling early is what makes hitting that window possible. Now the 2 mistakes that cost Walter so dearly. The first is simply waiting, telling yourself you'll give it a few more minutes, that you don't want to bother anyone. Paramedics would far rather come out for a false alarm than arrive too late. And the first hour is also when you're at highest risk of a lethal rhythm, the kind that stops the heart. The ambulance carries the one machine that can shock it back into rhythm. Sitting at home means none of that is anywhere near you. The second mistake is driving yourself or letting a loved one drive you. Please don't. If your heart slips into a dangerous rhythm behind the wheel, you can lose consciousness in traffic, turning one emergency into 2. In the back of an ambulance, you're already inside a moving emergency room. So the move is simple. Sit down, call 911, say clearly, "I think I am having a heart attack," and stay on the line. That phrase tells the dispatcher to send the right team and coach you through what comes next, including technique 2. Quick favor. If this is the kind of plain-spoken health information you wish your own doctor had time to give you, hit subscribe and tap like. And leave a comment telling me if you or someone you love has had a scare like this. Technique 2. Chew 1 regular aspirin if available and you're able. This goes after factor 2, the clot actively growing while you wait. That clot isn't a finished object sitting there. It's still recruiting platelets, the tiny cells whose job is to clump and stop bleeding. In a heart attack, that clumping happens in the worst possible spot, sealing your artery tighter by the minute. Aspirin makes platelets less sticky, slowing the clot's growth and sometimes keeping the artery from closing off completely before help arrives. The evidence isn't small. In the landmark ISIS-2 trial, published in 1988, a single dose of aspirin given during a heart attack cut the risk of dying by roughly 23% from 1 tablet taken at the right moment. Use a regular strength 325 milligram tablet or 4 low-dose 81 milligram tablets if that's what you have, and chew it rather than swallowing whole, since chewing gets it into your bloodstream in minutes. This is why your 911 dispatcher will usually ask if you have aspirin and tell you to take it. Let them guide you. But aspirin isn't right for everyone. Don't take it if you're allergic. Be cautious with a bleeding disorder, an active ulcer, or if you're already on blood thinners. If unsure, that's exactly what the dispatcher and paramedics are there to sort out. And hear this clearly. Aspirin is never a substitute for the call. Chewing an aspirin and lying down to see if it works on its own is a deadly mistake. The aspirin buys a little time. The ambulance and hospital save your life. Technique 3, stop everything, sit down, and get your body as calm and still as possible. This targets factor 3, how hard your suffocating heart is being forced to work. A piece of your heart muscle is starving because its oxygen supply is cut off. The moment you move, climb stairs, or panic, your heart beats harder and demands more oxygen it cannot get. Every bit of extra work is an unpaid bill that means more muscle damage and a higher chance of a dangerous rhythm. So your job is the opposite of effort. Bring the demand down. Stop what you're doing and get into a resting position, usually sitting, leaning back slightly, somewhere safe if you happen to faint. If very short of breath, sitting up is easier than lying flat. Loosen anything tight around your neck or waist, and slow your breathing in through the nose, out slowly. I know that's hard when you're scared, but panic-driven adrenaline pushes your heart rate and blood pressure up at the worst possible moment, and slow breathing pulls some of that back down. If someone's with you, have them stay close and keep you calm. If alone, unlock the front door first, then sit down nearby, so paramedics can reach you even if you can't get up to let them in. I also want to bust a dangerous myth, so-called cough CPR, the idea that coughing hard and rhythmically while alone can keep you going. It doesn't work, and fooling with it instead of calling for help costs the exact time that saves your life. Forget the coughing, stop moving, sit down, breathe slowly, unlock the door, and let the help already on its way come to you. Now, what if the person actually collapses, unresponsive, not breathing normally? That's cardiac arrest, and you're their best chance of living. 2 steps, no training required. First, call 911 on speaker or have someone else call. Second, start hands-only CPR. Heel of one hand in the center of the chest, other hand on top, elbows locked, push down hard and fast, about 2 pushes per second, and don't stop. Bystander CPR can double or even triple someone's chance of surviving cardiac arrest. If there's an AED nearby, send someone to grab it. It talks you through every step and won't shock unless truly needed. The only wrong move is doing nothing. One more thing nobody mentions. The people who come through a heart attack best got ready before it happened. Tonight, keep aspirin somewhere you and your spouse could find in the dark in 10 seconds. Make sure your house number is visible from the street. If you have a heart condition, know where your records and medication list are, and have an honest conversation with the people you live with about these warning signs. The heart attack is not the time to learn any of this. Tonight is. So here's the plan, in order. 1. Call 911 right away. Say, I think I am having a heart attack. Don't wait to see if it passes, and never drive yourself. 2. While you wait, if you have aspirin and no reason you can't take it, chew 1 regular 325 milligram tablet or 4 baby aspirins and let the dispatcher guide you. 3. Stop everything, sit down, loosen tight clothing, unlock your door, and slow your breathing. And if the person collapses and isn't breathing normally, that's cardiac arrest. Call 911, put it on speaker, and start hands-only CPR until help arrives, using an AED if one is nearby. Now let me bring you back to Walter, because I promised you someone with nearly the same morning and a very different life. A few years later, I had a patient I'll call Diane, 64. Same kind of morning, heavy pressure in the chest, a little nausea, an ache in her jaw she nearly brushed off. But Diane had heard something like this before. She didn't wait. She told her husband to call 911 and say the word heart attack. While he was on the phone, the dispatcher had her chew an aspirin. She sat down in her kitchen chair, unlocked the back door, and slowed her breathing until paramedics walked in 6 minutes later, ECG already in hand. They reopened her artery well inside that 90-minute window. Diane walked out of the hospital a few days later with most of her heart muscle intact. The last time I saw her, she was back out in her garden. Same event, roughly the same blocked artery. What separated a return to the garden from a retirement spent, winded at the mailbox, wasn't luck, and it wasn't better doctors. It was the first 10 minutes, 3 techniques, done in the right order, by a person who'd decided in advance she would not sit and wait. That's the part you control. You didn't choose your genetics, and you can't undo 30 years of cholesterol overnight, but the first 10 minutes belong entirely to you. If this gave you a plan you didn't have a few minutes ago, subscribe, hit like, and leave a comment so it can reach more people before the day they need it. Share this with the one person you'd most want to know it. Take good care of that heart of yours. I'm Dr. John Myers. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.